because I'm basically an electrical engineer now. Nope, not even close. But it does work. Probably avoided all the warranties and guarantees. Thank you, Richard.
Should I get a vacuum for the little tiny pieces?
Yeah, probably. We want to do that before it gets ground in, but maybe we could sit through math class first. How's that sound? I'm pulling the old bait and switch on Chris because, well, he's not here, so we can do whatever we want, baby.
You should give us a little over when Chris gets back. He's like,
So yeah, well, we're actually done with the first book. Are you?
no, he shouldn't give us one. That would be totally unfair.
That would be unfair to Chris.
So you want some light workload?
Light workload. Well, what do you figure he's been having? I can't wait till the book is over. I can just really pour it on. We are going to try to do the 12 and 15 today.
Just the free text for the whole lesson.
We'll see. Pre-tested lesson board. If you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs and making that lesson.
Well, also, I got 100 on the pre-test on lesson 11, so that means you can skip lesson 12.
Good for now.
I did lesson 12.
We did lesson 12 already. All right. And the inequalities. Yeah, that's pretty simple stuff. Fairly simple. Oh, and then have a pretest called miscellaneous. Genius.
What?
Literally have a pretest called miscellaneous. All right. What we're going to do right now. Ooh. Nice. Using proportions to solve fraction problems. These are pretty easy. Yeah, they're not bad, as long as we're not being confused.
Oh, those are so simple, we don't even.
Just ignore them.
I forgot how to do them, but I remember them.
No, they're not hard. All right, let's go to page 48. Because we did all the checking yesterday, so we don't have to do that. The question is on number 5, what is 3/5 of what? 85. 3/5 of 85.
So we just set up a percent of proportion.
Basically. Right?
Yeah, and then no, you put you at 85 in the up spot.
I don't remember.
Oh,
Trying to get a number.
truthfully, the way I do it is I would just multiply by 3 and divide by 5.
Is that right?
That would work. I'm trying to decide how they're going to tell you to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is how to do it.
It would
Okay,
turn
yeah.
out the same because
Yeah, so what they're doing, oh, I see, yeah. They're doing n over 85, which actually makes sense. This is logic. Equals, no,
3/5
3/5, yes. Right, so then we multiply it.
of is 85.
Right, of is 85. So if it's is, then it's on top. This is over and up again. Then just multiply by 3 and divide by 5, like I said. Ta-da. So how are we gonna do that? And yes, calculators, I don't care. Richard eases out his calculator.
Is it 50? Well, maybe just.
Can you use it for the full part?
You can for this one.
That would be
I
51.
need you guys,
51.
you guys to be slow so that you have something to do.
Oh, 52.
Yeah, exactly. Get the wrong number at least 3 times. Yes, that would make sense. 51. Mm-hmm. I can understand that.
I'm not saying it. The authority is saying it. The authority is saying it.
What is it? No, hang on. 53.
Is?
What is
I
it?
got,
Well,
51.
85.
Multiply.
3
times
divided by.
three.
I'm trying to do math. It's not working. I'm trying to decide how.
Divided by
Well, 85 divided by 5. It's
85.
going
51.
51.
Well,
It is
The
51.
world authority on the subject.
All right. Yeah, the world authority, not just the classroom authority. You can change anything I want. All right. Let's just do the next one real quick because that is one. So 35 is 5/6 of what number?
35 over 8.
35 is 5/6.
You're gonna just go 35 over n.
42.
Equals 5 this.
Let's see,
Okay, how'd you come up with that number there, Leah? Cool enough.
35 times 6 divided by 5.
Right, so in this case, I have 35 over n. Just is over up. 35 times 6 divided by 5. And you have
42.
42.
Cool.
All right, what does the mean?
It's the middle number.
Also,
No,
Another,
average.
another word for average.
another word for average. Mean, average, yeah. It's more technically correct for term for average. So how do you find the mean of a string of numbers?
You add them all together and divide by how many numbers there is.
All right. So let's find the average of your ages. How old are you?
Are we all
13? You're all 13?
So
Yeah,
the
over.
average.
So we have 3 13s.
That's the most. 13.
How old is,
13.
you're 14? You're 14? 13? Just a little better than 13. You gotta be just a shade better.
14.
You're 14. She's 15. She's 14, so she's good.
I'm not working, but yeah.
She's honest. All right. Calculators.
13.667.
13.667. So if you were to average that,
That's
you'd
14.
get 14.
It actually comes out like that when there's just all 6s on here.
Yeah. Well, that's because her calculator rounds and yours doesn't. You have an inferior calculator. No, normally, most calculators won't. If it's a repeating decimal, they won't round. But then you get like a scientific calculator. That must be. Yes, a scientific calculator will round. Perfect. You pretest on number 12. Just do the pretest on number 12 to start with. Oh, first things first though, how many ounces are in a pound?
16.
16, yes.
16.
Yeah, so that's important whenever you're adding ounces or pounds.
Which pretest are you supposed to do?
12. Did 11 yesterday. So, all right, Richard, now you can get up and get your vacuum. How many times do you have to get up and get your thing? Lots. You'll do very well in the quiz, I think, right?
No.
You had a struggle. You had
I had
something.
79. But I don't know what happened to my quiz. I gave it to you.
I think. The biggest problem, it was one problem that got to the 70. Well, it was 6 problems, but they were all the same, roughly. We did them all the same, unfortunately for you. All right.
Enter.
Oh, yes. Noise maker, right?
Ready for the class to be interrupted?
So what the, yeah, interrupt the class. So the question may be asked, what the point is of negative numbers? And the question may be answered as well. Basically, we often don't think about like how, we don't think about using negative numbers the way that you've been taught in the last few days. But say, for example, like they have the example on the first page of today's lesson about the Gobi Desert that gets extreme temperatures, both hot and cold. Which just sounds like a bad place to live. Let's not move to the Gobi Desert, number one. Number two, high temperatures of like 122 degrees Fahrenheit, because then you get more negative numbers, and low temperatures of negative 40. What's the cool thing about negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit?
Is there a question?
It's cold. Negative 40 Fahrenheit is negative 40 Celsius. It's a place that they cross over. The Celsius degrees are bigger than the Fahrenheit degrees, so they had to cross over someplace. But negative 40 is the place to do it. In case you wanted to know. I knew that. Anyway, if you don't have to worry about negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, then you're a happy person. Yeah, that's a good joke, but I'm not going to tell it. All right, so the problem is we need to find out the temperature range of the Gobi Desert because we're designing some for clothes to handle a certain amount of temperature range. So how would we go about figuring out this temperature range? What's the difference between these two temperatures? How do you find the difference between something? Right. So what we have is negative 122, no, positive 122, my burden, 122 minus negative 40.
Does that mean that you have to change both to positive?
Mm-hmm. So 122 plus 40 equals 162, I heard back in the corner. So that's the difference between those two numbers. That's the range between it. So we need to, if we're designing clothing or vehicles or whatever, we need to design something that will be able to hold up to 162 degrees of temperature difference, which is pretty well. So that's what you use. That would be one of the ways to use this information that we have.
Is it even possible to make clothes that keep you warm in that cold and hot, like cool and not hot?
That's the question. That's the thing the designers ask themselves.
Probably not.
Well, now you're just throwing it out.
Now we're done.
You're never going to dance. He's like, no, probably not. And some other person would, but you don't have any you don't have any ideas on how it can be done.
No, I don't know. Think
Me.
that's possible.
Actually, I do have ideas, but they're not good ideas. Involve flames and ice and different things.
They have an ice cube jacket that you fill it when you freeze it, full of ice cubes.
Oh, the comfort is real. It's next level comfort.
Is it, did you ever actually wear one?
Can you imagine wearing something that's full of ice cubes?
Oh, it's your skin. I feel like wearing an ice pack.
No,
I have a better idea.
Yeah.
A garden, a bottle full of like liquid nitrogen or, dry ice or something, and then whenever you start getting warm, you just push the button. You get colder.
I'll drop liquid nitrogen.
I think, that'd be fine. No, definitely wouldn't be. Yeah, people with frostbite and body parts.
We have a frostbite.
Yes.
I have been.
That means the side of my foot is still, there's no feeling in the side of my foot because of the frostbite.
We were snow machine. I've been last 5, 6 hours.
Mine happened while I was logging.
59 degrees, wow.
I knew I was cold, but I just kept working anyway. My feet still kept being cold,
Might you put extra for socks on?
and I did.
If that doesn't
That was the
help.
problem.
My
What happens
feet
is
frozen.
if your boots are too tight, like so say you have kind of marginally small boots anyway, then you put extra socks on, what happens is it actually makes it so there's no air gaps. And that actually makes it so your feet will freeze quicker. You're better off with an extra size bigger boots. So your winter boots should be an extra size big. And then you can put a couple pairs of wool socks on and still have room to move around inside your boots.
That's when
That's,
everybody says when it was frozen.
I didn't have a very good pair of boots either, but basically my problem was that I put too many pairs of socks on.
Yeah, that's actually a problem.
It is. You have to make sure that there's room inside your boots, because if there's no room inside your boots, then your feet will get cold.
Unless you put.
Cold weather survival tip.
Heaters in that.
That's also true with jackets. So if you put too many jackets on, they start to get tight. They won't keep you warm. You need to have something big and loose to help hold that. The air gap is what keeps you warm. Kind of similar to like a wetsuit. You know how people would dive in with a wetsuit? The wetsuit actually lets water in. Exactly. The dunk would be brutal, but the deal is it holds water in next to your skin. You warm up just a small portion of water, not very much, but that water stays next to your skin. And it gets warmed up, and then all the water outside of your wetsuit is cold or whatever other temperature. But you're swimming in basically, like, anything that's touching you is basically body temperature, which is what you want. But the plunge would be chilly.
I explained all the songs about those things before.
I don't know if I've
That's
had
all
good
one
idea
question.
to dry suit.
Say what? Let me go to the tropics.
I didn't,
It'll be a
so they do make those dry suits.
They do make dry suits.
I put one on Jesse's arm. It was huge.
Flopping around the side, it wouldn't be cold. You'd warm up too much water.
Well, Joel and Dennis or something got in wetsuits and are diving into the pond in the middle of the winter.
I just
That
went
was
in.
dumb. People go surfing in December out on the ocean.
And again, like if you have your wetsuit on, it's not a big deal. Well, I mean, there you go. Start saving up. Well, you know, like really snook in the water, it's fine. Just go diving like, that's plenty.
We can't surf.
We can go, we can
Can
stand
you
on our
surf
surfboard.
But it's
You probably.
jump out of the airplane.
We could just go down to the.
I just had a jet ski
Yeah.
Yeah.
or a sea breacher.
Those things are cool. I wanna try one. What ones? Like the sea creature.
Yeah, those
Maybe. I wonder how far down you can go.
I don't
I
know.
wonder if they ever sink.
I could sing one.
No, but that'd be terribly creepy. I don't know.
Like if it started to sink you, yeah.
Go fast.
It'd be like an inside stuff, pretty much.
Yeah. They have like the cats you can go down and then you just jump up. Like
very often modern boats in general float, even when they're sinking. They'll sink down to the point that then they'll have like foam or whatever stuck into places and they actually won't sink below a certain level. So that's why they tell you to stay with the boat. Because your boat
Yeah,
won't
this thing
sink.
is more.
But still, it's positively buoyant. You have to force it to go down.
Okay, then.
Moving on though. Interesting conversation. But it has very little to do with math. Oh dear, that is an unfortunate coffee shop. Todd's Coffee Shop, example. He had a net profit of 400, which isn't great for one of these, to be real honest. $473 he made the first, month of October, and he lost 112 in the month of November. Anyway, so his net profit for those two months, how do we figure that
Just subtract.
out? Right.
In other words, you would change,
Well, yeah, it's just like that.
361.
yeah,
So in this case, we're adding his profits together, right? So his profit was $473 plus, because we have to add his profits together, negative 112. So his net profit for the 2 months was $361. You might want to consider a new line of business. Of course, after 2 months, well, there might be hope. My coffee shop added $361 in 2 months. I would be discouraged. Also hungry. All right, let's do the first one. A random carabiner clip, which is a book that looks like this. Roughly, as a hinge point, and then this thing flops back and forth. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's not part of the problem. Fell out of his helicopter. The helicopter was flying at 473 feet, and the clip went 1,027 feet below the surface. We need to know what the change was. So started at 473 feet and settled at negative 1,027 feet. So that's how far below the surface it was. So what was its total change in altitude? How do we find this?
it's like the first time.
It's 1,500.
So what we're doing here is we're finding the difference between the two, right?
Yeah.
So how would we write this out correctly?
473. Minus. Negative 1,027.
Right.
Yeah. Why don't you make it plus?
Should be.
Now you change it to
Addition.
positive, yeah.
Right. See, we had to find the difference between the two. All right. See, most of this stuff, like I said, like you haven't been doing, most of what you use is just logic to figure this out. Now we're trying to use math to figure it out. And it's important to use the right system. So here's the deal. Is you can use your calculators, but I want to see your work on these ones. So I want you to write it out like this. And then your answer. That's what I want to see. I want to see your work. Yeah, I don't like number two either.
Can we do a normal class?
Say again.
Can we do a normal class?
I could.
You could. Let's just say how we do. Number two, how we do then?
28.
What's the work we have to make?
We should see how, what the difference was with like the first one.
So is that the first one? Yes. So we,
28 minus -7.
28 minus -7, correct.
Equal.
Recess. Rule number three. Well,
Did you
recommended.
say 34?
Yeah.
Isn't it 32?
Yeah. Yeah. it'd be-
Yes. 8 plus 7 is 15, yes, it is pretty bad.
So once you know pretest 12, what's next?
I want you to do.
Not quite. Okay.
Well, in that case, don't worry.
I just missed it, so.
I'm grabbing
Basic.
test 12.
I'll talk about that in a little bit. I might actually think of the first part of the self-test. Like I said, first part is summer.
So,
I want to check the. So if you just go on and do part of 13,
15?
13, just start working on 13.
The business?
There's no previous, there's not on 13.
What?
It's a practice set for 12.
They just give us a bunch of work.
Oh, yeah, busy.
Like foreign concept.
I know, you haven't had to do that yet this year. All right. But you'll have to get right on it here in a minute. I will force you. All right, number 3. So what I'd recommend here is I would add his deposits together and I would add his deficits together. And then I would lump those together and subtract that from whatever.
So is easy to write all these numbers down, just write the,
So what I would do is I would put all his deposits together. So his deposits are 15, 13, 75, and 1208, right? So these are deposits.
yeah, it's 40 to 80.
And I would put his deficits together, which is any number that goes down. So that he wrote a check for 1672, and he wrote a check for 2203. And he started with the number 328. All right, so what I would do is I figure out this total. I figure out this total. So what's this total? Lisa, you got something?
40, 83.
4083. So that's a positive. What's this?
38.75.
3875? That's a negative. So now I figure out if he's coming out positive or negative here. So what happens when you combine these two numbers? Are you adding them? What's the
Subtraction.
You have to add the,
And you add them, you combine.
you're adding, you combine them, yes. So you have 40.83 plus negative 38.75. All right, and we start with $328. Just going over here now.
330.
So this is going to be a net positive or negative?
Positive.
Net positive, and it's going to be what?
$2.
$2 and what?
Oh, wait,
Actually,
$2.08.
$2.08. Positive.
And so it'd be
So now we
$330.
combine these two. So what?
338 cents.
Right, so $328 plus a positive 208, $330.08.
Are we supposed to write all that down on a paper?
I want this, roughly. Stores that are having losses of $1,000 at a time. Well, this February was good. Hold your horses, Tiger. Actually, you ladies can do number 4 together. And tell me how you did it. We'll check this pretest quickly and then I'll just.
2,000 minus 2,000.
Lesson 12, pretest. Let's just check it. Oh, wait, where's Leah? Off getting a coffee?
There she is.
You just put lesson minus.
What?
We're gonna check the list. Check the
How
pretest.
about 1,000
Get your
minus
gun.
3,000?
Trust me.
It's gonna be negative 2,000.
All right, number 1, 25 pounds and ounces. Is the final answer. And B is 29 hours and 15 minutes. And C is 7 feet 8 inches. 2 is 11 feet 9 inches. B is 8 pounds 8 4/5 ounces. Good. Converted to a fraction. If you have 0.2, go to 0.8. You can happily keep that as well. C is 455. 3 is 6 and 2/3 and 1.5. 4 is 56. 5 is 40. 6 is 1/4. 7. The mean is 8. The median is 8. And the mode is 9.
How can the median be 8?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the median was actually.
No, you go from the middle and you count in, and those 2 numbers in the middle, or goes one single one in the middle. So you can 7 plus 9.
Oh, and then you average those 2.
Yeah.
Because it's an
I
even
know, but I
number,
came out with
9,
9 in the exact middle.
Okay, well, you did it wrong. You need 2 9s.
Oh, I put 3 9s.
Yeah, you have 2 9s and a 7. Uh-huh.
So you go kind of close.
Yeah, 7 plus 9 is over 2, which is 8. Weird. All right. So those are 7 points apiece. Are you officially ready for the self-test?
Well, I got it.
Yes, I'm officially ready.
So,
I got 100 on my 12, lesson 12 pretest.
so check your self-test.
Self-check. My bad.
Self-check. There's a part of it.
You can look it over.
Are we allowed to start over?
Yeah,
It's long.
it is long. We'll keep Richard busy for a minute.
I think you can do it for about 15 minutes.
For a minute, I said.
Wait,
15 minutes is above and beyond expectations.
so,
Just part A.
What time is
Mother's
your
purchase.
Yeah. All right. Go.
self-check?
Take your time, do it
Lesson
right.
13.
Self-check. Part A, self-check. All right. So what do you come up with for number 4?
2,000.
How do you do?
2,000 minus 1,000.
Okay, what's the question?
They had a loss and a profit.
a boat creek store had
Yeah,
lost
here's-
$1,000 supposed to.
The last sentence is the problem.
What is
What-
the difference between the profit?
2,000, negative 2,000.
You just throw numbers.
What is the difference?
How do we find that?
That's subtraction,
Yeah,
we subtracted.
yeah.
The 1,000 minus.
Okay, let's work through. Here's the deal though. Okay, so what are the 2 numbers that we're dealing with?
3,000 and 1,000.
No. 3,000. And
Negative 1,000.
1,000. Because it was a loss of 1,000, that means it's negative 1,000. So that means, since we're subtracting, we're finding the difference. So we're adding 1,000.
Why do you do that?
Because we're finding the difference between 3,000 and 1,000, right? It's like this.
4,000.
I'm gonna go back to my hills and holes. All right, so they made a profit of 3,000, so that's a hill. And they had a loss of 1,000.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to find here is the difference between the top and the bottom. That's what we're finding, is the difference between the two numbers.
Okay.
The difference between the two numbers is 4,000, right?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, I do.
So when it says you're finding the difference, you always have to have a negative. You always have to be subtracting. And when you have a loss, then that is a negative 1,000.
Yeah, I can see that when there's two negatives, you change it from positive.
Yeah, but this is why. Because they made a pile of money 3,000 high, and then they had a hole of money 1,000 deep.
Yeah.
Now we have to find the difference between those two. The difference is 4,000. I know, but I need you to understand it.
I'm just
I need
looking
you to
at your
understand why.
problem and I'm like, wow, I do not want it. Because that does not make a
We're not even
lot
to
of
the fun
sense.
stuff yet.
I know,
No,
because
this
the
is-
bottom hole is
this
way
is the
deeper than the
difference.
top hill.
Say what?
The top hill is way smaller than the bottom hole.
Well, I mean, this is credit card sales since it's cash. I don't know. But you understand that if you're finding the difference, you have to find the difference, the distance between the two extremes. So you have to subtract, and because they had a deficit and they actually made money, the difference is going to be higher than either of those numbers. Should we do another one from page 36?
Is the first one 8037?
For which one? I had 30. 30.
Okay. There's a number line to figure this out. The 30 is wrong.
Because I think he was born in 4 BC. I don't know.
Is BC negative?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so here we have 0, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is BC. Go backwards. BC is backwards. And then AD, we're going to go by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40. All right, AD. So when was he born?
BC 4 BC.
1, 2, 3, 4. He was born here. He died, or he lived how long?
33 years.
33 years. Okay. And we're trying to find out which year he died.
29.
Yes?
No, it's on calculator.
Use your calculator for 33 minus 4.
Yeah. Because I had to put a negative in front of it and I didn't want to do that.
What?
I just skipped it. I did a negative 4 minus 33. That's
Okay.
why I used my calculator. Is it 38?
She's right. with 29. Basically, yeah, it's,
You just got 30 and you minus 4?
yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I just used my calculator for it. Because 29, 80.
right.
Backwards on this thing.
Wait, not three, I'm -4 plus 33.
It doesn't really matter. You're putting them together, it's just easier like this.
Can we do 6 too?
What do you do more?
I know, these ones are very.
Well, they can be a little confusing to get your brain wrapped around. If you can, try to use the hills and holes thing, or try to use the number line or something to help you try to wrap your mind around what the problem actually is. So, in the year 708, Isaiah prophesied the death of Christ. How many years passed after Isaiah's prophecy until its fulfillment? All right, so we decided, so he prophesied his death, so that'd be his end of life. So we'll go with the number line. Here's 0. Here is 708 BC. Here is his death. When did he die? What year?
I'm 29.
29, 80, or 80, 29. Do it that way. All right, so we need to figure out how many years passed. So we are finding the difference between these two.
You could add them together.
Right.
708 plus 29.
708 minus -29.
708
Minus.
minus.
Oh, then you change it
negative.
from positive.
Yes, then you add them together. So what do we have?
337.
737 years.
Oh, hey, I have a question. What side of the number line is the negative side?
This side.
BC, why isn't it 708 negative then?
In this case, it doesn't really matter. This is, we can set this up because there's technically no negative numbers. But, yeah, that would be the other way to do it. It doesn't really matter, you come up with the same number anyway. If you have 29 minus -708.
That actually didn't take that long.
I'm just worried that you're confused and don't actually understand what's going on. That's what I'm worried about.
I'm not very confused, but I couldn't do by myself.
These ones are very kind of confusing.
Well, that's why we're working at it again. Hopefully try to get it figured out. They're fun once you get it figured out. These are just simple addition. And subtraction. Do you get number 7?
I'm working on it.
What are you gonna do for it?
Yeah.
Yes, very similar to